videos we will upload more patriotic news. Russia sanctions deal taking shape without changes Trump sought. Negotiators in both parties are nearing final approval of a sweeping sanctions deal that does not include changes the White House sought to make it easier for President Donald Trump to ease penalties against Russia, congressional sources said Friday. The imminent accord on a package of sanctions against Russia, Iran and North Korea could get released publicly as soon as Friday night, according to House and Senate aides. To resolve a partisan clash over giving House Democrats the power to force a vote blocking Trump from easing sanctions on Moscow, the deal allows any anti-Trump vote to get privileged consideration in the House provided that it passes the Senate, a source told Politico. The sanctions legislation could pass the House as soon as next week and the Senate soon clear it soon after, providing the Republican-led Congress with a major bipartisan achievement to tout amid struggles on health care and taxes, albeit an achievement that delivers a thumb in the eye to Trump. The White House had pressed to dilute the bill's provisions empowering Congress to block Trump from easing or ending sanctions against Russia, but its request fell on deaf ears from Republican leaders. The pending sanctions deal would make a technical change to the portion of the bill by ensuring that Congress would not review minor and routine licenses for businesses seeking to operate in partnership with Russian entities, according to one GOP source. Trump Jr., Manafort in negotiations with Grassley about testifying next week. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley is in negotiations with representatives of Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort about his request that they testify publicly before his panel next week, according to a spokesman, and is reiterating his threat to subpoena them if necessary. As of Friday afternoon, Grassley had not heard from a third requested witness, Glenn Simpson, according to Grassley spokesman Taylor Foy. Simpson is co-founder of the firm Fusion GPS, which commissioned the now infamous dossier of unsubstantiated allegations about President Donald Trump's alleged ties to Russia. Chairman Grassley and Ranking Member, Dianne Feinstein have made clear that they intend to hear from all witnesses for next Wednesday's hearing, Foy said in a statement Friday. Of course the preference would be voluntary cooperation. However, Chairman Grassley has been authorized to compel testimony, if necessary, from the witnesses. Foy added that under the committee's rules, subpoenas can be used to compel appearances at a committee hearing or private deposition, as well as to compel the production of documents. Grassley has said he wants to hear from representatives of all the witnesses by the end of the week. Public testimony by Trump Jr. and Manafort would amount to a major spectacle on Capitol Hill, giving Democrats a chance to question two men who have become central figures in the investigation into the Trump campaign's ties to Russia. Trump Jr. organized and Manafort attended a meeting last year with a Russian lawyer that was billed in an email as a chance to provide dirt on Hillary Clinton as part of a Kremlin-backed campaign to help Trump win the presidency. The official topic of next Wednesday's hearing is oversight of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Spicer quits amid White House feud. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer resigned on Friday following his disagreement with President Donald Trump's decision to appoint Anthony Scaramucci, a Wall Street financier, as the new communications director, according to multiple White House officials. It's a dramatic end for Spicer's White House tenure, which has been marked by combative exchanges with reporters in the briefing room and a rocky relationship with the president, who never warmed to the former Republican National Committee communications official. It also marks a potential new direction for the White House communications shop, which has struggled to keep up with the flood of developments regarding the Russia investigations while trying to push Trump's ambitious, yet stalled, legislative agenda. Spicer's departure is the latest for an administration that already has seen its communications director, national security advisor, Deputy Chief of Staff and Vice President's Chief of Staff leave or announce their imminent departures. Trump thanks Spicer for his service in a statement delivered by Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Sanders during a rare on-camera press briefing on Friday, and delivered a true-to-form compliment. "I am grateful for Sean's work on behalf of my administration and the American people. I wish him continued success as he moves on to pursue new opportunities. "Just look at his great television ratings," Trump said of Spicer. "Sanders will take over as press secretary, and Spicer will stay on until August." When Spicer found out about Trump's interest in bringing Scaramucci on board on Thursday night, he vented to confidants that he did not think Scaramucci could handle a major media campaign and didn't deserve the job, one of the confidants said. He also expressed concern about whether Scaramucci would technically be in a senior position to him, since in the Obama administration the communications director was senior to the press secretary, according to two people familiar with the conversations. "He's never done communications in his life," said another person who spoke to Spicer about his thoughts on Scaramucci. Trump offered Spicer a role to stay in the White House, but it was vague and Spicer declined, according to a senior administration official and Spicer confidant. "It's been an honor and a privilege to serve at POTUS at real Donald Trump and this amazing country. I will continue my service through August," Spicer tweeted on Friday afternoon. Spicer told the Associated Press that he resigned to clear the way for Scaramucci, saying, "We're at the point where the president could benefit from a clean slate." He said Scaramucci's tenure will be great, adding, "He's a tough guy." Scaramucci also appeared at the White House briefing on Friday, and downplayed tensions around his appointment, saying he had a strong relationship with Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, who also voiced opposition to Scaramucci's appointment, according to multiple sources. "There's been some speculation in the press about me and Reince, so I just want to talk about that very quickly," he said. "Reince and I have been personal friends for 6 years. We are a little bit like brothers where we rough each other up once in a while, which is totally normal for brothers," he said. "I don't have any friction with Sean, I don't have any friction with Reince," Scaramucci said, though he also said, "We can all live with a little bit of friction in the White House." Despite the public professions of optimism, Scaramucci's expected appointment has caused great upheaval in the West Wing, with Priebus and Chief Strategist Steve Bannon also expressing opposition to him getting the high-profile job. "This was a murdering of Reince and Bannon. They said Anthony would get this job over their dead bodies," said one top White House official. Another White House official disputed that Priebus used these words and said the Chief of Staff has a long-standing and good relationship with Scaramucci. The official said Priebus did not want to stop Scaramucci's appointment but instead just wanted to slow the process down. The first official added that Scaramucci had the backing of Trump's son-in-law and top advisor Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, National Economic Council Director Gary Cohn, and Deputy National Security Advisor Dinah Powell. A third White House official said Spicer was gracious while breaking the news of his departure, offered some praise for Scaramucci, while saying he would help with a transition. In the press office there was a round of applause on Friday morning for Spicer and then for Scaramucci, led by Priebus, according to a White House official. But a source close to the White House press operation said there are serious doubts among some aides that Scaramucci will be able to handle the full scope of the job. The challenge really here is that Scaramucci was being given a ceremonial title as communications director with absolutely no understanding of what that position means and with no understanding of how government works. So it's really more of a joke that he's being offered this position. The source added, Trump simply wants a high-level White House surrogate on television and wanted Mooch to have something nice to do. The White House will try to project a unified front, with Spicer, Priebus and Scaramucci all due to appear on Fox News host Sean Hannity's show on Friday night. Scaramucci, who has been an avid defender of Trump on TV in recent months, will replace Mike Dobbs, who resigned from the job in May. He is joining the White House after being blocked from other senior jobs, including Director of the Office of Public Liaison, which is in charge of managing the administration's relationship with big business groups, amid concerns about his extensive business entanglements and lack of political experience. But Scaramucci does bring with him a natural ease with Trump, and he is seen as a natural schmoozer and fixture on the global financial scene from Davos to his own lavish hedge fund conference in Las Vegas. Scaramucci drew resistance from others in the White House, including Priebus, White House officials said. One source with knowledge of the conversations between Trump and Scaramucci said the latter's new post could be read as a message to Priebus, a former RNC chairman who has not built a strong relationship with Trump. "Just hiring Anthony is telling Reince beat it, go find another job," said the source, who cited the tense relationship between the two. Priebus' role in previously blocking him from joining the administration has been a sore point between the two. Another White House official said Scaramucci will be a big asset as Trump tries to deliver on his aggressive legislative agenda, including tax reform and an infrastructure package. "We are all super happy, well, most of us are. He's got credibility, including with some Democrats on the Hill. And he believes the press has a job to do. Good to have in this job as we move on to tax reform." Trump met with Scaramucci on Thursday night to discuss the role and again on Friday morning, according to 3 White House officials and 2 advisors with knowledge. Trump sees Scaramucci as a strong defender of him on television, particularly on the Russia scandal, and wants him to be focused on the surrogate strategy as communications director. Trump has been enamored with Scaramucci since he managed to get a retraction from CNN on a story published in late June about his alleged Russia connections, according to one senior administration official and one outside advisor. "Talks about it all the time," said the outside advisor. Trump reconnected with Scaramucci in the Oval Office shortly after and mainly talked about Scaramucci's win against CNN, according to a person familiar with the chat. As West Wing aides learned of Scaramucci's likely appointment, Spicer suggested that he instead take the position of communications director for the National Economic Council, according to a Spicer confidant. Priebus, meanwhile, tried to offer Scaramucci the job he was originally promised, director of the Office of Public Liaison, even though it's currently being filled by Priebus ally George Sifakis. Last month, Spicer was trying to set the stage for his potential departure, hinting that it was by choice that he was moving away from the podium, but that if he wasn't given control of the communications department, he would threaten to leave. But in recent weeks, he was feeling more confident in his new slot. For the past 6 weeks, he has been running point in meetings with communications and legislative affairs staffers overseeing the rollout of the administration's tax reform plans, moving into the more policy-oriented role that he said he wanted. And he has expressed skepticism that a shakeup in the communications department was imminent. He's been in a good mood. He's been enjoying lowering his profile and communications planning around tax reform and other issues in the White House, said the source close to the press operation. The source added that Spicer wasn't necessarily surprised by the Scaramucci news and that Spicer has plenty of options for his future. He will go make a lot of money, and he will enjoy some downtime. 2 sources with direct knowledge of the situation said that Scaramucci is being primed to eventually take on the position of Chief of Staff. One person close to White House said there is potential for mass exodus in press office. Priebus has told people he is determined to stay with the job for 1 year, mainly to prove the naysayers wrong, but it looks increasingly difficult. That person said that Priebus has been concerned about his reputation and thinks leaving any time short of a year would be seen as a failure. The open question is Reince, the person said. White House seeks to downplay discord at first briefing after shakeup. The White House sought to use its first on-camera briefing in weeks on Friday to downplay internal discord after a press shop shakeup, and President Donald Trump said in a statement that he was grateful to outgoing White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. In the statement read by Principal Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Trump wished success to Spicer, who resigned hours earlier in protest of the decision to bring on Wall Street financier Anthony Scaramucci as communications director, and applauded his outgoing aide's great television ratings. Scaramucci also praised Spicer and said he and White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, who reportedly also opposed his hiring, are like bickering brothers with no real friction between them. Here are the key moments from the briefing by Sanders, who will now take over Spicer's job, and Scaramucci. Scaramucci and Priebus are like squabbling brothers, the new communications director said. There's been some speculation in the press about me and Reince, so I just want to talk about that very quickly. Reince and I have been personal friends for 6 years. We are a little bit like brothers, where we rough each other up once in a while, which is totally normal for brothers. There's a lot of people in here that have brothers, and so you get that. But he's a dear friend, he said. He said it was Priebus who first brought him into politics and recalled that he had once asked the chief of staff to join his hedge fund, Skybridge Capital. He also said Priebus was consulted before he was hired. I would love to have Sean here, Scaramucci said of Spicer, insisting there was no friction. Okay, so his attitude is, if Anthony's coming in, let me clear the slate for Anthony, and I do appreciate that about Sean, and I love him for it, he continued. But I don't have any friction with Sean. He also said he had no issues with Priebus, though he said we can all live with a little bit of friction in the White House. Scaramucci would not commit to on-camera briefings. If she supplies hair and makeup, I will consider it, okay? But I need a lot of hair and makeup, John, Scaramucci told ABC News' John Carl as he gestured toward Huckabee Sanders, before offering a more serious answer. I don't know. Maybe, he said. This is the press secretary. I'm up here today only because I think it's the first day. We made a mutual decision that it would make sense for me to come up here and try to answer as many questions as possible. But the answer is, we may. I have to talk to the president about it. I like consulting with the president before I make decisions like that. White House aides Hope Hicks and Dan Scavino plan to stay on as Director of Strategic Communications and Social Media Director, respectively, Scaramucci said. He said he could not speak to whether others in the communications shop plan to stay on. The president is a remarkable athlete, to hear Scaramucci tell it. He's the most competitive person I've ever met. I've seen this guy throw a dead spiral through a tire. I've seen him at Madison Square Garden with a top coat on, standing in the key, and he's hitting foul shots and swishing them, okay? He sinks 3-foot putts, Scaramucci said. I don't see this guy as a guy that's ever under siege. This is a very, very competitive person. Obviously, there's a lot of incoming that comes into the White House. But the president's a winner. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a lot of winning. Scaramucci apologized for once calling Trump a hack politician, and accusing him of making anti-American comments about hedge funds and suggesting that Trump would only get elected president of the Queens County Bullies Association. Oh my God, he brings it up every 15 seconds, okay? One of the biggest mistakes that I made, because I was an unexperienced person in the world of politics, I was supporting another candidate. I should have never said it about him, Scaramucci said. So Mr. President, if you're listening, I personally apologize for the 50th time for saying that. There's no reason to think Trump lacks confidence in H.R. McMaster, Sanders said. I have no reason to believe otherwise, she said of Trump's support for his national security advisor. Trump still wants the Senate to vote on an Obamacare replacement, Sanders said. She confirmed that, despite mixed messages from the president this week, he still expects Republicans in the Senate to vote to replace, and not just repeal, the Affordable Care Act the next week. The president's preference is to repeal and replace Obamacare, and we haven't been shy or quiet about that, and those intentions have certainly not changed, she told reporters. That vote is currently on track to fail, unless Republicans in the Senate overcome their differences on the legislation. Sanders said she doesn't have any reason to think the Russia probe will be unfair. Trump, who has regularly called the investigation into the 2016 election a witch hunt, has complained about the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller and criticized Attorney General Jeff Sessions for recusing himself. Trump defenders inside the White House and outside it have been critical of the team assembled by Mueller, complaining that attorneys brought in to work on the probe donated to prominent Democrats. Earlier Friday, counselor to the president Kellyanne Conway said questions about Mueller's team should be asked in the interest of transparency. At the White House podium, Sanders would not say whether donations to Trump's political foes should disqualify people from working for Mueller. I don't know that we're putting out a litmus test, she said, referring further questions to outside attorneys.